All right, welcome everyone. I really appreciate your patience. Thank you guys so much for waiting. I do have Michael backstage. I'm going to bring him on in just a second. And yeah, so I'm gonna have him come up here because what we're going to do is, and it's not going to be too long of one because he does have the interview with Nick Rekieta, Rekieta Law Channel, coming up at midnight Eastern, so in an hour and a half. So we're just going to cut through all the formalities and just get right to it. I'm going to have some questions that I'm going to ask him. But guys, I really appreciate you joining, and let's bring on Michael. What's going on, my man? Can you hear me? Oh, I think you're muted. You got to unmute your mic. There you go. Better? Yes.
Perfect.
I really appreciate you joining me, man, especially on such short notice.
Of course. I'm glad we could chat. And
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Where do you want to go from here, man?
Well, I mean, I don't, like I was telling the chat earlier just now, I don't want to spill too much into or spill it all into Nick's live coming up that you're going to be on, because I know he's going to cover some really important issues on the legal aspect of your situation. So I just definitely want to, I'm just going to get pretty much right to it, start asking you some questions, if that's okay.
Sure, man. Yeah.
All right. So let's just start with the court hearing tomorrow. So is that still happening?
So not for, well, kind of, it's a complicated question. So let me back up and explain what that court hearing tomorrow was originally going to be about, and then I'll catch you up to where things stand right now. That hearing that was going to be for tomorrow, they were trying to do a motion for enforcement of court orders. And there was, they listed out like violations saying, withheld the child and secreting the child. Like they were tacking on about, I think the penalty over it that they were requesting was something like 2 consecutive 180-day jail terms plus 18 months in the county jail, plus fines and all this other stuff. So all this had been requested, and they had just moved forward to put it on the calendar, but fortunately they didn't follow process and actually serve me, which is part of what you have to do when somebody's going to go to court for something like this. And also because they're trying to bring me up on charges that are over a certain amount, I have the right to a jury trial. And so I submitted, yesterday, I think, a demand for a jury trial. And so now they're not going to have the hearings on the motions to enforce stuff, and they were trying to pull together, I don't know, a meeting to discuss scheduling these things for the future, and also to consider the jury trial. Hold on, I'll finish, and then you can ask if you don't mind.
No, yeah, please.
So they were trying to pull together some sort of meeting to discuss times that could be scheduled for these other motions, because they said, well, we're not going to hear the Jacob Ellington injunction removal request thing that Kelly put in, and also that, to consider the jury trial, to consider the court-appointed attorney. And so I finally answered back, and I was like, well, it seems kind of strange that, well, A, we never do scheduling over in a courtroom. Really, that's not a standard practice. We do it over the electronic email stuff. B, how the heck are we going to schedule anything tomorrow if I don't have a court-appointed attorney for the jury trial that we're trying to schedule? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And so I'm asking them to do the court-appointed attorney first, because I want a jury trial if they're going to bring me up on these things.
Well, sure. I mean, I didn't even think about that. But so what you're saying is, just to be clear for everybody in the chat, what you're saying is now they're not going to have the hearing regarding the jail time request?
It doesn't seem that way, man, but there's so many things that have been weird in this process that don't make any sense that I can't tell you for sure what they're going to do tomorrow.
All right. And a lot of people just want the answer I'm just gonna go ahead and ask: are you planning on showing up with Sophie?
Well, there's really not a need to show up for a hearing tomorrow if there's not going to be any hearings taking place about the enforcement promotions. And
Okay.
and like you need to understand the background here. This is a civil matter until it's a criminal matter.
Right.
And in this situation, when they reach these unlawful, illegal, unconstitutional orders that they tried to lay down on the 7th, the only next step is to file an appeal. And so the appeal process, which I know that the mandamus ended up getting out, and people started going over some of this stuff, which is good. Good. I'm glad they did. It gets submitted into the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and within less than 2 hours, it had already been denied. So we're like, well, what? I mean, this is 450 some odd pages of mandamus. It's just boom, denied.
Well, we spoke. Yeah, we spoke last night very, very candidly. We had a very productive conversation, and you shared a lot of documents with me. And Nick Rekieta has been covering your case too. So he's been showing a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of things going on in the court that probably shouldn't be going on.
No, shouldn't be.
Right. So I'm with you on the fact that things are being mishandled. You're not being treated fairly necessarily, but my issue, and I think a lot of people listening right now, is are you still ordered to produce Sophie tomorrow to this hearing?
No, not if they're not going to enforce the motions. I mean, it kind of takes it off the table for the time being, which is what needs to happen. I mean, look, man, if they're going to bring me up on charges, then give me a jury trial. Fine.
Fair enough. No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Let's understand exactly why I'm making the decisions I'm making. Because for me, the priority above anything else, and I've said this in court, like, it's God, it's family, and then it's pretty much everything else. Like, that's kind of the way it works in my life. And quite frankly, like, the will of the court versus the will of my child in terms of her safety and her well-being will always take precedence and priority for me. And, some people overlook this and forget this in these situations, but there is such thing as child negligence. And child negligence isn't just having your child in a bad situation, but it's letting your child go into a situation that may cause them harm knowingly.
But wouldn't you agree that if you end up with a warrant issued for your arrest and law enforcement doesn't care about the situation of they don't care about the details of your situation, their job is just to execute this warrant and recover Sophie. So, I mean, wouldn't you agree that would put her in danger?
I wouldn't let it get to a danger place, man. The last thing I want is for her to be in harm's way. And I think you should know that. Like, but
I'm just asking because this is what's on everyone's mind. So sure, I'm just
letting her go back to a situation. I mean, look at this objectively. Okay, you're a father. Your child has made a number of outcries, and not only yourself, but to mandated reporters. You have the documentation. Here it all is. And now they're demanding that your child go into the care of the family of one of the alleged perpetrators. Like, this isn't okay. It's not okay to force her to go and reunite with somebody that she's not ready to do that with.
Right.
And, I said this on the interview yesterday, but I'll say it again today. Like, there is nothing that anybody can do that's going to convince me that I coached my daughter or that I alienated my daughter. You can't convince me of that. And being as that's the case, my stance won't change with it. It won't change because I know what Sophie has shared. I know what she's gone through. And I'm not going to send her off into a situation where I don't even know she'll make it to North Carolina. I don't know if she's going to be safe and well. And cutting me off from her life, dude, the way that things have gone down in court are so bad on so many levels that it's not only disgusting to me, it's highly disappointing. It's disappointing because in this country, we deserve to have fair processes in the courtroom. And when everything's sealed off and closed off from the public, nobody can observe it. Suddenly what happens is that people in the background do as they will. And in this case, you now have people that are in charge. Okay, you got an amicus attorney, you got a guardian ad litem, and you have a judge who all have backgrounds in criminal. They don't have backgrounds in family law. And so I'm walking into a situation trying to play a game of chess, but nobody knows the damn rules.
Well, it's interesting because there's a lot of before I ask my next question, I want to comment on that because I listened. You sent me a lot of documents. You also sent me a recorded phone call between you and I don't remember her name. I believe she was the guardian ad litem assigned at the time.
Are you talking about that old call during the gag order?
Yeah, I believe it
Yeah.
took place on the 30th of August last year, something like that. Okay.
Yep.
So she flat out admits on there that
Yeah.
that there's bias. That
Absolutely. She admits that they're all friends.
right. She admits that she's friends with the
never
judge.
made it. Yeah.
So
Yeah, like her husband went to school with that attorney and that they're all friends, and that's just the way it is. And look,
so
that
your
was the
best
reality.
your best shot here is to get 12 people, 12 regular people to listen to this evidence and make a decision here. Because right now you're not your situation isn't being judged by the people. Your situation is being judged by people who are court officers that all know each other and hang out with each other.
Well, and in this case, it's even gotten stranger. There's a whole nother layer of oddness now that's been layered on top of what was happening back then, and that the people who have been appointed come from Dallas County. They all have criminal defense backgrounds. Like they're not experienced in family law. And now
that's another thing. How would they? How can they appoint and push for it? But
well,
how can they appoint an amicus attorney and a guardian ad litem who absolutely has no experience with family law or dealing with kids?
Thank you.
Professionally. So why is this happening?
Okay, so I can tell you what happened. Why it's all happened is something that we're still trying to figure out. But back when, originally Judge Cynthia Wheelis was on the case, suddenly got sent over to Judge Lori Hockett, who had it for a couple hearings, and then suddenly got transferred back to Judge Cynthia Wheelis. About this time, Rachel Lee was involved. There was an attempt to take Sophie away again, which got documented. I think that one, that went public too. And then there was a TRO, like an emergency TRO that was submitted that in closed conference on like a Friday, they decided to approve it, which essentially removed all my rights. And this is last year. Come Sunday evening, I get paperwork that there will be a hearing on Monday morning. That's the one you heard the recording from on the gag order, right? And man, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I have a stand-in attorney at this point. They're strong-arming me into agreeing to a gag order that somehow this is going to solve the situation. I didn't agree to it. And by that evening, it had leaked out of the court, even though I wasn't on the call, of Judge Cynthia Wheelis making this ruling, pretty much telling the internet to take down anything related to the kids. That went crazy. And at that point, I was like, you know what, this isn't right. This isn't fair. And as you saw in some of those documents that I shared from even before that time period on the 18th as to why. So it goes public. Things are crazy. I think looking back now, that was a very crazy time period. Judge Cynthia Wheelis unseals the case and leaves, recuses herself on like the 7th of September, sometime between the 7th and the 8th. Her husband, Judge Ray Wheelis, suddenly takes charge of it. And who's appointed by the governor, of Texas to oversee the first presiding, was it the first administrative region of Texas, which is like 6, 7, big counties, important counties in Texas, all the criminal, civil, family law, and juvenile courts in all those counties. So Judge Ray Wheelis takes charge of it. He appoints Judge Michael Snipes, who is on this list of judges that can be appointed to cases. But Judge Michael Snipes, who has a very decorated background as a judge, I mean, seriously, he has an amazing background as a judge, but he's appointed on our family law case out of nowhere. But he doesn't have the qualifications for it. Now, I didn't understand all this stuff back then as I do now, because I've had to be like face deep in legal books and trying to understand the way that things work in these settings. But in short order, he gets appointed about, I think, a week after, on the 9th of September, he gives me custody of all the kids on a temporary order basis. On the 14th or 16th of that month is when those screenshots of Judge Ray Wheelis, this very high-level judge in the state of Texas, the screenshots came out of him on Facebook with the opposition group sharing Sophie's medical records, court documents, expressing his willingness to help understand the case, and the fact that he's married to the judge that was on the case, Cynthia Wheelis. All this stuff is documented. And then
how's that not a conflict of interest?
Dude, that is so beyond a conflict of interest that it's shameful, man. It is. I don't even quite have good words for you, bro. I am
Right.
so disgusted by the fact that a judge at his level who has taken his oath, who lives under the code of judicial conduct and the canons that are contained therein, would conduct himself in this manner. And
All right. I'm sorry.
that's just so beyond. Anyways, so
I
let me just tell you what.
no. Go ahead, real quick. But I do want to keep this moving because I have more questions to ask. But
I know. So, well, you asked how they got appointed. So, all of a sudden, so Judge Snipes is on the case, and Judge Snipes decides to appoint in the case John Helms, who is a criminal defense attorney and his ex-law partner out of Dallas County, and Stephanie Cole Martin, who is a defense attorney out of Dallas County, who used to work for the district attorney's office. Well, they weren't even on the guardian ad litem list or the amicus list like the procedures are supposed to go. You're supposed to take random top of the list. Those are the people that can come in. And in the cases where you appoint outside people to it, it has to come with approval of the counsels involved and all that. Well, that didn't happen. It happened sua sponte. They were put on the case. It was kind of a big mystery. And, you know, fast forward over time, it's really, it's turned out, it's just become a shit show, man. Like either there's gross negligence going on in the courtroom, or there's purposeful misconduct. One of the two. It's one of the two extremes.
well, I mean, I don't want to keep harping on this, but so has the court actually agreed and confirmed that the enforcement hearing is postponed tomorrow, or did you just file a motion for it and you're waiting for the results?
The latest communication I have is taking those off the agenda, and they wanted to move it to just talk about hearing time scheduling and the jury trial scheduling and the appointment of an attorney for me. But the fact of the matter is that none of the other stuff can happen until the appointment of the attorney happens. And so there's communication going back and forth on it.
Okay, so basically, yeah. So basically, it just boils down to there's no reason to show up to this hearing because it's not going to cover the stuff that is supposed to cover originally. And now, but you are saying that if for whatever reason, you're assuring everybody here that cares about Sophie that for whatever reason, if they do somehow hold you in contempt, you're going to turn yourself in, correct?
Well, that's a complex loaded question, Will. There's always other legal actions that are taken in these cases. If they were to step so far as to attempt to do that may be a question of the appeals court. But again, it's a bridge that I'll have to cross that point. What I can tell you for sure is that I will absolutely do nothing to put her in harm's way. I will always ensure that she's safe, and she's going to continue to be a priority.
I get that, but what I'm saying is, like, the thing is though is, I mean, and this is just me talking because I'm trying to cover everybody's thoughts here. All right, it's not necessarily my personal opinion, but what about your psych eval, right? So your psych eval, according to the court, you failed your psych eval. You're considered a danger to Sophie.
Hold on.
So couldn't it be argued that you wouldn't really know the difference between what's dangerous for her and what isn't? Does that make sense?
Let me clarify a couple things, because some of what your input is from what you just said didn't come from the courts. It actually came from
I saw the court order
online who have things to say. You can't fail a psych eval. Okay, that's not something that happens.
Fair enough. Those are Courtney's words. I'll give you that.
I know. That's what I want to clarify. I didn't fail a psych eval, and I have passed multiple psych evals in the past. In this situation, I went in and did a psych eval in January. Okay. Fast forward through the months and through different things that have occurred in the process to June, when we were in the midst of the recusals and disqualification pleadings that were going on. All of a sudden, the psychologist decides that now's the time and I'm going to drop the results. And in his results, he decides to conclude that I'm somehow a danger to the children. Now, I want you to put this in context, right? Use your eyes, use your ears, right?
You've been watching. Okay.
You. Okay. So how is it, here's the question. How is it that a psychologist that's qualified to do this type of thing, how is it that I get evaluated in January and it's not till June that he decides that I'm a danger to the children? Hey, I call bullshit on that. And the second part of it is, wouldn't he have a professional obligation to say something if that was actually his conclusion? Yes, he would. It's too convenient. The timing is too convenient. And I know some context about the particular psychologist that was involved with this case. There's clear bias in the evaluation. And actually, he didn't even have the professional ability to draw the conclusions that he drew. So we are dealing with that right now. It's another aspect of stuff that's going on in this case, man. But I feel pretty calm. I mean, all things considered,
well, I've only ever seen you calm. But the fact is, I mean, I mean, I saw the court order that they said that the court decided that you are considered a physical and emotional mental danger to Sophie. Yeah. So, I mean, that's there, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the issue with that is if the court looks at it that way, I mean,
what evidence?
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It absolutely does matter, Will. Like, I know that there's somehow this belief that if a court says something, it must be true, but that's not the way it always works. And I think most parents who have gone through any sort of custody challenges in a family court setting can absolutely attest to the fact that it doesn't always work that way. In this situation, the evidence that was used to substantiate any form of coaching was a series of text messages that are connected to the mandamus that anybody can now review. Okay? And they'll clearly see there was not coaching. The alienation claim came from a psychologist who was the therapist for Sophie, who she saw 6 times, and he didn't actually conclude that there was alienation going on. He said it could go one way or the other.
But the reason why I say that it doesn't matter, Michael, is because the court's already made their ruling. You see what I'm saying? So they're going to act based on the ruling, would they not? I mean, they're not going to.
They're not going to. And there are rules that were violated.
Law enforcement's not going to listen to you say, "Oh, it's unfair." No, it's not fair.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right in this respect that law enforcement, but that's not their job. Their job is to enforce.
Their job is to put you in handcuffs and stick you in the back of a car.
Sure,
that's their job.
But there is legal recourse available should you run into situations like this in a courtroom, and that's why perhaps this is important that we're talking about, because not everything that happens in a court of law is up and up. And especially when you're dealing with courtrooms that are all sealed, closed cases, right? This is where you run into some problems. The judiciary in this country was never designed to be done in private and secret. I mean, in fact, I was having a conversation just earlier today that this is one of the bases as to why we started this country in the first place, is that, closed courts led to kind of bad things happening. And now we have a family, family court system in this country that, predominantly, man, all happens in private. This is going on in England right now. All their family courts are sealed off. And this leads to a lot of problems. And in this situation, it's pushed me right back into a corner where I'm like, no, you're not going to just come in here and make up lies in a courtroom, present false evidence, and draw conclusions about me that I know are false. Okay? I only did this to protect my daughter. That was the whole point of it in the first place, and my sons, for that matter, who quite frankly have not been protected by the court. So I don't trust their judgment anyways. And it's leading me to a situation where they want to turn, or have me turn my daughter over to a non-party to the suit, a person that hasn't even presented themselves into the jurisdiction of the court, illegal, right? With people who aren't qualified to oversee this case, with people acting in roles that they shouldn't be. Like, there's a lot of problems here going on in the background. This is not just some rogue person ran off with their child, dude. And it wasn't that I had to run off anyways. We were actually
right. I mean, we're all those of us with brains already know, because we've already gone over it here. Nick's gone over it on his channel. There's no warrant issued for your arrest yet. And Sophie is in the missing persons database currently, but that's I have an idea. Because I don't find it to be coincidence that I went live calling somebody out on their BS. And I could just say bullshit. Like, again, this one's not monetized. So, but I went live calling out another creator just on their bullshit. And then magically there's a missing person. She's in the missing persons database.
Yeah, and this is kind of, so you bring up an important point, man. Before this ever turned into now there's a missing persons report, what was going on is that there was this, poster thing circulating on the internet talking about her being missing, and putting pictures of like my dad and all this stuff.
Dude, we talk about missing kids on this channel all the time. This
put us into nothing fits.
nothing fits. No, it's a PR thing. It's totally
Yes,
a
but
PR thing.
it put us into a bad
Right.
situation in that, okay, now suddenly I'm looked at it like somebody who's, you know, gone rogue with their child, some superhero out there wants to save the day. Like this, you talk about putting a child in harm's way. That was an irresponsible thing to do. There were still civil actions being done.
Totally agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And I was saying that this entire time that put Sophie in danger.
You know,
Because
it's a thing to consider, man. Like,
yeah,
who are the
I agree.
parties? Okay, A, B, here. Okay, so here's me. Give me some facts about when, where, and how I put my children in danger. When? Prove it. I have not. There are no facts that correlate that. Now, I can give you facts that correlate.
But there is a court's ruling, though. But what works in your favor, Michael, what works in your favor is channels like Nick, like Ricada Law, going over the inconsistencies that are taking place in that court. So that says something about their credibility. Otherwise, I mean, because my custody case, everything worked out great. I have no complaints about that. I have no complaints about that. But in your case, there's so many different things that are considered to be unethical. They are considered to be bias. They are considered to be conflicts of interest. And so the reason why I don't go over that stuff is because I'm not qualified to. But the fact is, you know, that's one thing that you have working for you in the sense, in the court of public opinion anyway, is there's just this case is supposedly just being handled all wrong by everybody.
Okay, so let me give you an example. Okay, and you're familiar with the document of this.
But I agree with you. I think your best chance is a jury trial. Yeah. You know, and yeah, I think that's your best chance for sure.
Okay, hold on 1 second, man. Hold on. All right, sorry about that, brother.
No, you're good.
Oh my God. So, anyways, yeah, there's really some foundational issues that have gone on in this situation. They're being addressed. Like, there's a lot more going on in the background. But dude, I can't disclose all strategy up in the front. Like, some of this has to take place, and you know, sometimes one side does something, so the other side has to do something. But it's just been a bombardment of emotions, and a lot of this all started kind of the new conflict, you could say. A lot of this came about after the accident in February, when Kelly had violated the court order by bringing the boys over to Jake's house to ride go-karts on like February 20th. And while Lucas and Jake were riding a go-kart, the go-kart flips. Lucas's hand breaks in 3 spots. He ends up.
I'm glad you brought that up. Do you think that actually happened that way, or do you suspect something else happened
that way?
Okay.
That's the way that Kelly reported it to me. That's the way that the amicus and ad litem reported it to me, although they said they were going to take action on it because it was a clear violation of the order from December. I have it recorded from both of them, okay, saying that action would be taken. And this is something that's really bothersome to me. We had a clear agreement. If they had any contact with him, the boys would be back with me immediately. There wasn't even a need to go through a serving process. It was on a presumption that that would be in their best interest at that point. What happens? Nothing.
Okay, well that actually
gets hurt.
That brings me to my next question, actually. So, so are you currently under a gag order by the court? And if you are, why risk speaking out now?
Yeah, so the gag order has obviously been broken on the other side with a PR firm that's been doing a national smear campaign for some time. So if no party on the other side is going to be held accountable to a gag order, and I find the gag order to be completely unconstitutional in the first place. So look, man, is what it is. If they want to hold me to something of it, they're going to have to hold themselves to it too.
Fair enough. So that's, yeah. So your answer to why breaking the gag order is fuck them. I get it. Okay.
Bro, there's no other choice. You push me into a corner. You're going to go smear me nationally, making these claims on major media. Like, I'm gonna say my side of the story. Then that's the way that this shit works.
And you just said that you
And
don't, because I was going to ask you if you knew who filed the missing persons report. Do you have any suspicion as to who filed it?
no
I
clue.
do. But
I mean,
what?
it's all guess game at this point. I don't know who filed it. You know, they obviously had insight into places I've lived in the past, and this kind of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, is it somebody that knows me? Probably. But then again, it's probably a PR firm. Who knows? You know?
All right. So technically, do you still have custody of Sophie, or was that revoked from the hearing on the 7th?
Sophie's in my custody. How's that?
I mean, she's physically in your custody. Is she legally in your custody is the question.
Well, is it legal to assign custody to a non-party? No. So who has actual custody of her? Can you file a motion for enforcement on an order to have a child returned to you when you don't have custody of them anymore? Boy, that's strange. So if the person that has custody of her is Daniel Hamlin, I think Daniel Hamlin should be filing a motion for enforcement of custody of
And
Sophie.
I feel like if the court honestly believed that Sophie was missing, there would be a warrant out for your arrest. I mean, if you're her abductor, as the missing persons poster says, well, then why isn't there not a warrant for your arrest currently? You see what I'm saying?
Will, like, please, like, take into consideration, like, it would be impossible for the people involved in this court situation not to know that they've made decisions and done things that are inappropriate and even unlawful. Okay. So pushing this agenda forward of what they want to enforce in that order that went out, like, there's a part of me that's like, do it. Because then I want it to be heard by a jury. I'll just spread it out further. Because people will know what happened in that courtroom. And I don't know exactly what happened, like who influenced who, or who's the person that's calling the shots. Because Judge Michael Snipes has a decorated background. Maybe somebody that's involved is pulling the wool over his eyes. Maybe the guardian ad litem has something to do with this, because I certainly see negligence on her part. My God, there's a forensic report, a forensic interview, and I shared this with you.
I read it.
That it exists.
I read it, and it literally made my stomach physically ill.
It should. But here's what pisses me off. She never even presented it as evidence in the court. She's more interested in going and getting text messages from a person I'm going through a divorce with that prove absolutely nothing and presenting them as evidence in the court of coaching. And anybody's welcome to go read them yourself. Okay. Instead of using a forensic interview from a nurse that's qualified to do this kind of thing, that clearly shows that my daughter had outcries that were consistent with what she had said all along, that were super fucking concerning, that documented injuries she had on her body from the interaction that happened on the 18th of August. Like,
I mean, and we
why
saw
isn't that evidence put into the file? Why doesn't
there's also
that's going on?
There's also a diagnosis that states that she was sexually abused by a parent.
Yes.
That's the diagnosis of her discharge.
Discharge diagnosis, page number 1.
Why is this not an issue? Why is this being ignored?
How would you ever ask a father that's presented with these type of documents to just hand their child back over into the care of the parties who she alleges did this stuff?
I can't say I disagree with you.
How would you ever ask someone to do that?
I mean, I can't say I disagree with you, but I also, I mean, if I'm being honest, I can't get behind you not complying with the law. Yeah, the easy thing for me is to just comply with whatever they want and then start fresh. Take this on in another direction. I mean, what I'm really hoping to hear from Nick's interview with you is hopefully maybe he has options for you that are possibilities. I don't know. But I mean, he's not licensed. He's licensed in Minnesota, I think. He's not licensed in Texas. So I don't know how much he can help you, but
at the end of the day, man, I'm gonna follow my heart, I'm gonna follow my mind, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm doing everything I can to protect her. And I don't feel like she's safe going into the care of the other party. I don't. And look, if you want to take the accident as an example from February as a case of negligence that led to the injury of a child, cool. There's a fact for you. If you want to take 911 calls, CPS investigations, and everything else as fact that the children were left in very bad situations in the care of the other party, fine. Take them. Look, there's facts, there's documents, there's things you can look at. You want to take the medical records and look at what the doctor said and the nurses said? Cool. Those exist too. But when you
Real
add it
quick,
all
sorry.
together,
Real
you
quick,
can't just,
sorry. Hey, mods, hide Tim Foxworth. Get him the hell out of here. I'm sick of him. Sick of him. Get him
yeah,
out of here.
Tim makes some comment. I'm gonna address Tim on here
Fuck
directly.
that guy.
Tim makes some comment the other
Fuck
day
that guy.
that how does he do a psych eval if he's at some casino in Oklahoma, right? Well, Tim, I'm gonna answer your question. I was sleeping in my car in a casino parking lot in Oklahoma because I was so broke after Courtney left that I didn't have money to afford a hotel. That's what happened.
I hold him responsible for this whole fucking fiasco. So yeah, get him the fuck out of here. And hold on. So are you currently in the country? Are you in Texas? Can you answer that?
I don't want to ask any questions about my location, man.
Okay. All right. Does Sophie have a passport?
No.
Okay.
But hey, here, hold up. I want to tell you something interesting. When this all started last year, one of the things that Kelly was putting forward in motions is that I was holding back the children's passports and I wouldn't hand them over. And she felt there was a flight risk because of me, right? So I called the State Department and I'm like, are there passports issued for my children? And they're like, no, we got no records and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, this is concerning. Fast forward to now, they in this last order, two parts of it stood out to me. One, they gave rights to Daniel Hamlin to individually go get a passport for Sophie, and rights to Kelly to go get passports for the boys individually without my approval. This is a non-standard practice. Usually both parents have to sign off when a child gets a passport. That's a very common way to do it. But this was one of the rights that was simply passed off in these orders in the court. It's super suspicious, man.
Yeah. So what is your biggest concern with allowing Sophie to be in Danielle's custody for 90 days?
Well, there's a number of issues with that. I don't even know where I'd start. Hold on one second, man. I'm sorry, man.
No, you're fine.
Okay. What are the issues? Well, legally, the issues are she's a non-party to the case. So she hadn't presented as somebody that would be taking over kind of legal custody of the child. She lives in another state, not under the jurisdiction of Texas, and never presented herself to the Texas courts to be under the court order or jurisdiction of the state of Texas. 3, she's the sister of one of the alleged perpetrators in this case. I know that dynamic between the relationship that they have.
She
and I know
is,
that
and
Kelly,
just to be clear, she's Sophie's aunt on Kelly's side. She's Kelly's sister. Okay.
I know that Kelly dominates that relationship, and they also assigned Kelly's mother, who was videoed in this, the video that was released from August, where she was pulling the legs of Sophie. I don't trust her judgment with Sophie either. The other piece of this is that the arrangement that they're trying to put her in is to live in some house in the woods with her husband home all day with her, with Sophie, a man who Sophie's never met, or maybe met twice on very short order. Asking her to be comfortable with that arrangement doesn't seem right to me. It also means that she'd be forcing her into a reunification facility with Kelly to do some super intensive, like, reunification therapy that if you want some documentation on what they're actually doing in that facility, I think you should read up on it. It's disturbing. For all those reasons in itself, like, I'm uncomfortable with it. But there's also things that happen in the background with the courts to put this in play, mainly the guardian ad litem, because she lied in December in mediation, actually saying that Sophie's therapist had recommended that she go to North Carolina to this reunification facility. This is December, all right? She gets called out in mediation about it, in the sense that, the lawyers they had at the time call up the therapist, have him get on the mediation call and ask him directly, did you recommend that Sophie go out to North Carolina to live with her aunt and go through this reunification facility? And he's like, absolutely not. That was the recommendation of the guardian ad litem. Okay, this was the first time I'm like, wait a minute. Like, no, this isn't okay. Fast forward to July and this plan, actually May, and this orchestration of the plan that she started planting seeds about back in December is exactly what they were trying to orchestrate in the hearing. Okay, not a word to me, not any discussion with me. Now, Sophie got straight A's in school last year. She's happy, she's healthy, she's active, and she's doing well. Like, there is absolutely no reason to force her into another direction that she's not comfortable with. I don't agree with this.
And I'm sorry for interrupting you so much, but I kind of have to manage things here a little bit because this chat is a shit show. And I got trolls everywhere. Guys,
sure.
Courtney is watching, but she is not commenting in the chat. She just messaged me. I know it's her. I've talked with her on Facebook before. So she is not in the chat. It's a fake profile. Anybody using Courtney's name, block them, hide them. But she is watching, and she's not commenting in the chat.
Yeah.
All right.
Courtney stuff has been such an unfortunate byproduct of this situation too.
Yeah. I have my opinions on that. But
look,
you know,
look, I want to say a couple things. I know Courtney's a loving mother. I know she loves our son, and I know she gave endless amounts of love to the children over the years that she was a part of their lives. Things at the end went drastically wrong, and the way that we parted terms wasn't okay. It wasn't okay. And the week after she left, it just got worse and worse. But I dearly cared for Courtney. I loved Courtney. I didn't want her to leave in the first place. Okay, but after she
I
did,
saw you guys had a great relationship. I was surprised that things happened the way that they did. I don't know who did what to who or anything.
But I'm going to clarify something, and I say this for the record. I did not cheat on Courtney. I never had a relationship with another woman while I was with Courtney. Okay, that is fact. And for that to be spun around on the internet like it's truth, like that needs to stop. Okay, I was faithful to her. I wanted to be with her, and I never wanted her to go. All right, and the kids were devastated when she departed. That was a very, very hard transition. It's been super hard not to see my son either. I just wish that things would calm the hell down with that situation, man, because we didn't need to be enemies.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't make the situation easier for Sophie. That's for sure. No. I'm hoping. I know that she's listening, and she's definitely not helping the situation by talking to channels like Katie Joy's channel, who's just a gossip channel. She's being sued for the second time. That should tell you all you need to know. I mean, it's just it's not helping.
There's so
Sophie's
much misinformation. There's so much misinformation that is handed around. I mean, in very short order after we parted ways, I mean, she's writing me saying that she's getting reports from people that I'm in casinos with hookers and other places. And I'm like, no, no, this never happened. What are you talking about?
Do you have money for hookers and casinos right now?
I do not. I do not.
Okay, just checking. That was actually one of my questions.
Like to gamble, dude.
I was just curious as to because one of my questions was what your financial situation was like. You don't have to answer that. I know it's a very personal question, but it pertains to what. Yeah. Okay. I figured as much.
But anyways, I mean, I want that to be stated. Like this has gotten so complex, but the drama that's overshadowed a lot of this other stuff, that it was never about that. This is about a child who spoke up. And damn it, you know what? Courtney was there with her. She went to the hospital. She went to the doctor's visit. She was a part of seeing all the crap that was going on in this situation. And so, yes, it's been really disappointing that it had to turn into this drama show on the side when all we ever wanted was for the child to be protected.
I could speak for a lot of us because speaking for myself, but I know I'm speaking for a lot of other people that are listening right now. I know how much Courtney was a help in fighting for Sophie when all of this started, when you would be on this channel numerous times. 100%. I spoke with her privately and she shared a lot of information with me. She was definitely on the front lines and fighting for Sophie.
She's so smart. She's such a great researcher, man. I could tell her she should be a PI.
That's what I said. I said she should start a YouTube channel and do true crime. She'd kill it.
She's amazing.
But the thing is because that's no longer a thing, because you and her split up, this cannot be helpful to Sophie. You know, and what it seems like is that she is doing things that are counterproductive in helping Sophie.
And this is what I'm saying. I don't know how much misinformation has been handed her way from trolls that are out there doing shit, because you know how prevalent this is. But dude, they try to state facts about things that have never happened and turn them into truth. And if somebody's in an emotionally kind of delicate state, some of that stuff just, I don't know. I mean, it penetrates through you. Maybe you want to believe part of that stuff. But the relationship with Courtney over the years was a beautiful time period in my life. I have no regrets for having been together with her. And I only want her to have a happy, healthy life. And I know that she loves our child. And I know that that's something that he's really blessed to have in his life, a mom that loves him as much as she does. And I want her to do well. I want her to be happy. Like, that's all I could ever wish for her.
Um. All right.
But this isn't the topic. So back to the case and stuff, man. Like, look, there are some injustices that have happened in this process. There are reasons that things have come to a head that the way that they have. And the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of other parents going through these situations, not only in Collin County, but all around the country. They have to be dealt with in this case just as much as in any other. But it just so happens that this case made it very public. Right?
Have you had any contact with Kelly?
Personally, no.
Okay.
Last time she contacted me, I think, was to tell me that there was an accident, I believe, with the boys. I think that was the last time she actually.
Okay, with the go-karts, right?
Yeah.
So what about the text messages where you advise Sophie not to trust the amicus when she comes to the property? Can you explain that?
Is this so Courtney's writing you, I think, about something she testified to, that when there was a hearing, a TRO hearing in December, that I had taken Courtney's phone and written this out to Sophie, and Courtney's phone had sent her a message in all capital letters and all that. I don't recall doing this on her phone. She made this statement in court. If I recalled doing it, I would tell you. But either way, like, it's not in my recollection that this occurred. Now, that's how she remembers it. I remember it differently. I remember being on the hearing. I remember we had good reason to have a TRO hearing prior to the negotiations that took place. And it felt kind of unfair in that hearing that the guardian ad litem, instead of listening to the recordings of what Lucas had shared, simply went over to him and asked him, like, had he seen Jake? And he admitted to having seen him. Just that it was at a custody exchange, instead of having, instead of substantiating the fact that the child described the bedroom, he described the go-karts, he described what they were doing there, and the fact he'd spent time there, they just didn't even pay attention to it. The Dad Challenge podcast. What is the plan in the end here?
Yeah, I'm glad you saw that.
I think,
now, Josh has gone to bat for you a lot, man. I think he deserves an answer,
man. Absolutely. Okay, so, dude, there's so many balls in the air. It's hard to say what direction this goes in from here. But
are you prepared to go to jail?
I'll go to jail. Absolutely, I'll go to jail. But I want to say what I think the best solution is. And it didn't come from me. Because a lot of this circles around Sophie and her mom, and this kind of forcing her to go back into the care of versus giving her the time to go through and get the counseling and move into a better place. But man, I think Sophie had the best suggestion of anybody that I've come across. And that was, look, I just want my mom to get healthy. I want her to go through counseling for a while. And I want to know that she's happy and healthy and that she's not going to put me in unsafe situations. Like, that's it. That's all she wants. Okay. This isn't about like a hate situation at this point. This isn't about, I don't believe that children should grow up without their mothers in their lives. Mothers are great. They should be a part of their lives, but it's also important that Kelly's making good decisions for the kids. Okay. And if having Jake Bellington in her life, somebody who has consistently been in domestic violence situations with her, somebody who now one of our children has alleged did other things to her, like, God, make some good choices here. Okay.
I mean, the whole PR firm thing is it's mind blowing to me. That's even people are focused on what the PR firm is doing, but they're not focused on, they're not using their eyes. They're not focused on why the hell does she even have a PR firm in a custody fight? That makes no sense. Why is she so concerned about her image?
I don't have all the answers to that for you, but I can say it's been quite a weird experience to have these national campaigns launched, and hell, Courtney experienced this early on. They started publishing saying the GoFundMe was a fraud. They were planting the seeds to push forward the agenda of alienation and coaching back then. Like, this was going on for a whole year. So, and granted, and I want you to keep in mind, That stuff went public after that forensic interview took place, right? So, I mean, as you can see, it's been incredibly frustrating for us going through the process because we're like, wait a minute, how could you say all this stuff? I know this is a smear campaign. I
Now,
know it's a smear campaign.
real quick, I want to say something because, dude, I do not care about giving my opinion on here, and I will. People are saying Jake is innocent. Now, that remains to be seen. A thorough investigation has to take place as far as
Yeah.
Sophie's claim goes. But my personal opinion of the dude, based on the things that I've seen, is he is he a child molester? I don't know. Is he a piece
I
of
wasn't
shit?
there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I'll
and
say
there's
he's a
some
piece of shit.
document of that.
I don't care. I
So,
mean, there's plenty
you
of
seem to think I
documentation
am,
to
so,
show that
yeah.
he's a piece of shit. So I
And
don't give a fuck.
yes, I can't sit here and preach about there not being a fair judicial process without saying that, yes, in this case, there should be fair judicial proceedings regarding these allegations and what happened. But what I'm saying was there wasn't a proper investigation done. We've established that the police department was interfering with the criminal investigation. God knows whatever happened with the SANE exam. Okay. Like there's just so many problems in the way that this was handled by the police and the courts that I wanted addressed because this really hurt everything too. When the police department's like, oh, it's an inactive investigation. I was like, dude, you don't even have the SANE exam back yet. And has anybody addressed why you have a sergeant of your criminal investigation division calling up after hours to influence officers in another city about them doing an exam?
Why isn't that? Yeah, I mean, I streamed that live where you were on with your attorneys, with Courtney, and you played that recording, and then I played that recording from that live myself and talked about it. And I think Josh did too.
Did a transcript of it. I mean, it was put
yeah,
out
he
there,
made a transcript of it. That's
why
is nobody talking about how absolutely inappropriate that was?
It was
and not only inappropriate, but so suspicious. So suspicious.
I mean, dude, and there were other details of what happened around that situation that not many people know, right? Because it just wasn't something that was talked about at the time. But, you know, this happened a half an hour after the officers left the hospital. You know, they call on a cell phone. Thank God Seguin PD recorded it because actually Seguin PD has been pretty awesome and they did their jobs, man. More than anything, they did their jobs. They recorded this call that comes in. The sergeant of the criminal investigation spends about, I don't know, 10, 12, or 11 minutes on a rant about how awful I am, about how I've subjected my daughter to all these different like exams and stuff. He didn't know what the hell he's talking about. That was the first SANE exam that was ever ordered, like a physical SANE.
Yeah, he said that you had nine of them done.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
And that in itself was abuse.
What law enforcement department would have approved 9 SANE exams on a child?
Yeah, so I mean, that's what I keep saying.
Question.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. Is
furthermore, and this is a very, very important detail that I want investigated. That guy knew. He knew about an outcry that she made that she had only made in that hospital that night. And he knew it. I know he knew it because he expressed it to those officers and he downplayed it on purpose. Okay, something is going on in the background here. Somebody communicated with him before he spoke to them, okay, about the situation. And I'll never change my mind on it because we never heard her say those same things before. She, like, ever. It never came up until the night of the hospital when Courtney brought her in. There's something fishy going on, man, and I want it investigated. We don't live in a country that we should put up with this type of stuff in our system. Like, police officers take oaths. People who are part of the judicial take oaths. Lawyers take oaths. Like, they got to live by them. If they don't, then things break down.
What is your rationale for trying to intercept evidence being taken, being collected? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you're a police officer.
Why does the SANE exam sit in the police department for over 2 months?
Right.
To their chain of custody.
And whatever happened to that SANE exam, by the way?
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
We still don't know.
I don't know personally. I have no idea what happened to it.
And what
I do know is that they were announcing an inactive investigation before it ever got done with any process.
And the nurse, while the police officer was on the phone in the hospital, the nurse pointed out that Sophie was showing symptoms of a particular STD.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it
about the cell phone caller or in the hospital?
Well, it was the sergeant that was off duty that called the cops that were at the hospital. Okay. And while he was on the phone with them, the cop is like, the nurse just walked up to me and told me that she's having green discharge.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know,
So
like,
it wasn't that the nurse walked up to him and told him that in that moment. He was relaying that the nurse had walked up to him and told him that,
oh, okay.
because they were actually in their car, I think, behind the hospital after they had left the hospital when that call came in. But we have body cam footage of the entire visit to the hospital by the police. Like,
Okay.
I know everything that happened in
Oh,
there from the
I'd love
perspective of the
I'd love to
officer.
see that. I'd love to see
Yeah,
that.
well, that'll go out too, because at this point, everything needs to be evaluated.
I
All
agree.
of it.
I agree.
And I want some answers. I want some answers how it is that somebody's in charge of the well-being of children in a court setting won't submit a forensic interview that clearly shows outcries of sexual abuse by a child.
And
On what planet are we living?
let me address the chat, because some people just aren't listening. So I already asked Michael about what his plans are. If he's, you know, as far as the court date tomorrow, he gave his answer. We'll just have to see. So he's already answered. So you don't need to keep asking the same question when he's already given his answer. Maybe you don't like his answer. That's not anybody's problem but yours, unfortunately. I'm sorry. There's nothing else we can do about that, because he already gave his answer. Whether you believe it or not, that's on you. You know, but I want to keep this moving. Nikki Venable, I believe Sophie, and I've been very, very adamant about that. I believe Sophie. And I've seen enough data to make me believe Sophie, and I don't apologize for it, and I don't take it back, and my mind has not changed. Hold on a second. Sorry. Stuff is coming to me. Sorry. I don't know what that is supposed to be. Hold on. Okay. Now, interesting. So Courtney is sending me messages, Michael.
Right.
And Courtney sent me a screenshot saying that the SANE exam was complete.
Mm-hmm.
Which says it's processing and is complete.
So she left with the login information of it, and I've never gotten it from her. I tried to get it through other sources, but if it's complete, the results of which have never been reported back. We have no information on it whatsoever. And the police refused to testify in the civil case. In fact, they brought in their lawyers.
I mean, that's fair, because the thing, it doesn't show results. It just says that it was complete.
So what happened? Because
they
took physical evidence with them. Okay, there were physical things that they brought with them to do that evaluation. They swooped in and got it 2 days later. It sat in their department for 2.5 weeks. It got transferred to Garland on the chain of custody forms. Then Garland disappeared off that chain of custody, and it had been sitting in Frisco PD for over 2 months. And then it got transferred to Houston to be evaluated. And then from there, I didn't see the results, but I'd like to know what's going on. Not that I trust what the hell they're doing, because of the reasons I have, but nonetheless, like the PD doesn't step into the civil case to say anything at all, because apparently there's aspects of it that would release, you know, the potential information that are part of a criminal investigation. So it's like, well, I don't know anything.
But can't you, I mean, since you're pro se, that's the term, right? Where you're representing yourself. Can't you subpoena these police officers and put them on the stand, question them?
No, they were subpoenaed. Yeah, they were subpoenaed. And actually, they've been subpoenaed multiple times. Even Kyle Pemberton got subpoenaed. And he doesn't know anything about the case, and he's not going to testify on it because there's information they can't disclose. They have a whole law firm that works for them that goes in there and makes it so that they submit what's called a motion to quash. And a motion to quash is essentially, you know, saying, hey, there's not substantial reasons, or there's legal reasons why your subpoena isn't something we can follow through with. And this is what happened on the 20th of May when they were trying to subpoena members of the Frisco PD, or records from them. I forget which one.
And I want to be clear real quick. This is the first time that I've communicated with Courtney on any level whatsoever since last year, since you guys were together and we spoke privately and discussed your case. So I just want to be clear about that. I haven't spoken to Courtney. This is the first time I've spoken to Courtney at all
I thought you went
So
live saying that she felt like she was at risk for her life or something like this, since it was insurance policy, all that jazz.
what now?
Wasn't there some live you did where you said that you needed to go public with it because Courtney was scared and all this other stuff?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Probably because she did. I mean, I don't know how much I don't know how much truth there is to that, but when somebody says that they feel that their life is in danger, well, then you take precautions.
They should call the police. Yeah,
Well, I mean, she should call the police, but
exactly.
if something is public, you know this better than anybody. If something is made public, well, then it puts a lot more attention on something and a lot less risk
Yeah,
for something to happen to that person.
But I'll say it again. I only want her to have a happy life. Like that's it. That's it. So we could go back and forth on that topic all day. But
Yeah, I
at
mean,
the end of the
personally,
day,
I mean,
right.
that's none of my business, man. I mean, the only feelings that I have about you and Courtney's relationship is how helpful Courtney was in helping Sophie back when you guys were together. Like if I'm being if I'm being totally honest, I don't give a fuck who you're fucking. I don't care. It's none of my business. I don't care who she's fucking. I don't care. It's none of my business.
She has some absolute amazing gifts for research. She did so much work to dig into this situation and discover what was going on. The stuff that she was able to dig out of the records online were amazing. Like she found, political contributions from Rachel Lee going to Cynthia Wheelis and actual records. That's just stuff that she's brilliant at it. She's got a lot of talents, and look, she was a huge help in that process. It's sad to see that it's turned the way that it has. It never had to be that way. I hope she's okay.
I wish it wasn't like this. Like I honestly had no desire to talk about this case again until I saw idiot channels just spreading horrible misinformation that honestly I would have ignored if I didn't feel that it could potentially put Sophie in danger that she wasn't in. So that's why I started talking about it. But as far as your relationship with Courtney, I mean, I hope you guys can come to some sort of understanding. And I mean, it's just the fact that
me too.
And I know I speak for a lot of people here, but it just seems like all the adults here have gotten lost in their own arguments, and the kids became not the priority. For everyone here. So
I can understand how that would have been the perception, but I can also tell you that the priority that I've had is Sophie. I've had the boys on some occasions too, but visitation with the boys stopped in April because the agreement from December only outlined visitations to go through April, and the guardian ad litem didn't take action to rectify that.
When was the last time you saw Phoenix?
I haven't seen Phoenix since Courtney left.
Okay. Have you wanted to see Phoenix?
Absolutely. I wrote her many, many a times, despite what she said publicly.
Okay.
And look, the past is the past. Okay. At this point, moving forward, I hope we can come to some peaceful agreement. It's what's best for Phoenix. And look, I want her to be happy, healthy, and feel safe and all that too. She deserves that.
All right. So yeah, I mean, somebody asked where do you see your relationship? Somebody in the chat asked earlier where you see your relationship. I think it was Tom Riddle asked where you see your relationship with your kids 10 years from now.
Tom Riddle. Man, I'm trying to figure out what my life looks like in 2 weeks, let alone how the relationship looks like in 2 years.
That's an understandable answer right there. I can't blame you for feeling that way.
Look, dude, I love my relationship with my kids. Like I think it's magical to have children and to get to know these little personalities as they come to life and experience the joys of being a father. And I know that I'm definitely blessed with parents who have offered me the opportunity to have a great relationship with two people who've made a world of difference in my life, and I can only hope to model that with my own children. Being the voice of reason, also being the person that offers grace and being there for them along the journey. And if I could be all that to my kids, I would be happy.
Understood.
I missed that comment you put up, but I don't know if you want me to.
No, it wasn't designed for you. It was just I wanted people to make sure that they saw it because my mods like to give disclaimers because some of the stuff we talk about can be triggering. People have their own family issues and things of that nature. So it's just kind of a disclaimer and a warning. Yeah, so I want to go ahead and start wrapping this up because I want to give you some time to touch base with Nick before you're live with him. Because you guys go on in less than 30. So, and I'll be in chat watching that. But is there anything else that you want to address?
We need like a wheel to spin this. What topic to discuss? I mean, there's so much, man. I mean, but look, I want justice in this situation, and when I say justice, I want court actors to follow the law. Okay. These are children that we're talking about here. This isn't a game. Okay, you don't just hire a PR firm, smash the other parent in media, do all this shit. There has been no intention to smash anybody that's a parent figure in this situation. Okay, but reporting the facts as they happen and the allegations as they were reported, like dude, it was a necessary evil in the situation because of the corner that I was pushed in. I wouldn't naturally want that to have been the case, but it was the case. And once it went public and the public got involved to help with it, they expect accountability. They expect to hear what's going on, and I understand that aspect of it. What I'll tell you is this: like, we are at a place. I have heard so many stories from so many families across this country about situations that are going on in the family court. And man, like, not only does the child's voice need to be a priority and something that we are hearing and listening to and doing something about when they speak up, but we also need to hold these family courts accountable. There needs to be a level of transparency implemented in these courts, and we need to figure out a way to have some sort of federal oversight so that when they get out of control, parents have a resource to go to so that they can put them back in check.
I don't disagree with you at all on that.
This has been a huge learning process. I didn't know anything about the law before I got involved with this, and now I find myself reading like legal books.
I got to tell you, it's like I was telling you last night. I'm kind of impressed because you shared with me motions that you filed, which and I was talking before how important it is to actually have an attorney in cases like this, because you could have all the evidence in the world, but if you don't know how to present it to a judge or get a motion filed, the judge is never going to even see this evidence. So the fact that
service of it, and you got to get it notarized properly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed on just being somebody who was involved in that case, and by the grace of God, I ended up with an attorney, luckily. But who knows how that would have turned out if I didn't have one? So, I mean, I was looking at this stuff and going, man, I would have never been able to do this stuff.
But look, man, you bring up a point. I think
but maybe, I mean, I was in a situation where I was protecting my child too. So, I mean, who knows what I would have been capable of,
I think in order to do it. The vast majority of divorces and custody things that are going on. I mean, assuming that there's not really bad stuff going on, like, parties can do this stuff themselves. Like, it's not rocket science to be able to come to an agreement, put it on paper, and actually, just finalize that stuff. It's too bad that we get dependent on lawyers for even small conflicts, because I feel like in certain instances, those small conflicts become big conflicts because there's money to be made. And then all of a sudden, those two parties hate each other, and they're using their lawyers as weapons, right? And they're spending all the money that probably should be saved up for college for the kids.
I hate lawyers.
I don't hate lawyers.
I do. And the only lawyers I like are the ones that hate lawyers. Those are the only ones I like.
I've met some really amazing lawyers in this process.
Like, they're such bloodsuckers, and they know you need them. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know you need them, and they'll suck every dime out of you. And I mean, look at your situation. Now you ran out of money, and so you don't have a lawyer.
That wasn't a situation.
And you were doing, let's be honest, your case was actually, considering what you were going up against, your case was actually working in your favor for the most part for a while there, until you no longer had representation. Now it's just gone to shit.
More complex. Yeah, you're right. I would say that ideally, in a high conflict situation, you would have legal representation that can make sure that you're approaching things properly. But if the court's not going to follow the laws anyways, then it doesn't really matter, right? Because you could submit something and it could be legal, it could have reason, all this other stuff, and they don't even listen to it. But like I was trying to say before, like, just as a tidbit of advice to anybody going through conflict right now, like if there's a way that you could find a way to talk to each other as opposed to using lawyers, sometimes the lawyers know that they can make a hell of a lot more money with two people pissed off at each other than they ever will with two people that are seeing eye to eye. And I just keep it in mind. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question that I just thought of now, actually. What do you think your chances of winning custody over Sophie would have been had there not been allegations of SA?
So when let me back up, because I think this is a misperception about the way things went down. We had never entered into this situation with some desire to enter a high conflict custody battle. That's not what this is about. We were forced to file documents in the civil court because CPS and law enforcement, I guess it was DFPS, didn't follow through on what law enforcement told us they were going to do, which was filing emergency orders, on behalf of the children to have them removed and put in our care. That should have been it. That should have been done. We should have been moving forward then with an investigation, not in a civil court. It should establish things that happened or didn't happen, and then we would have gotten somewhere. But I've gotten all sorts of different advice along the way, and one of them is that even if there's a CPS investigation into your partner who has your kids and there's some concerning things, unless you step in and file it in civil court, no action will happen. And so, look, I've experienced it too. When they don't take action, then you have to. And the reason we ended up filing civilly is because we didn't want to be in violation of the court order. But once it's filed in the civil court, now you're in the civil court and it's perceived differently. And now you're having, custody evaluations, and the court order do this and that and the other, and you're at the whim of the court. And that's not what this is about. I wasn't there to determine whether or not, who has the most extracurricular activities and all this other stuff. That's not what this is about. It was about protecting a child who had an outcry. I had a son who tested positive for drugs in the May prior. That just got swept under the carpet.
I saw that
DFPS.
Report. Yeah, I saw that report.
I got a deposition from the lab. That was my son who got tested. Okay, Kelly didn't get tested for 3 months. Jake never got tested. All right, we did a zero tolerance hair follicle test, and it was cocaine. It was marijuana. It wasn't. He was exposed to it. It was in his system. I want answers. But what we got instead was a bunch of people in the system at DFPS saying, "Oh, you can't have them. You can't take them into safekeeping." No. I had to call the cops. The cops show up. It was a nightmare, man. But the fact is, the kids should have been removed. There should have been an immediate investigation as to what was going on. And then we could have come to some resolve. That's not what happened. Instead, Courtney and I got pushed into a corner over this. So we had to go do our own hair follicle test on the side. Then we did CPSs to make sure we had all of our ducks in a row. Like, it's just a mess. That's not the way it's supposed to work, man.
Yeah, I understand, man. I understand. So, I mean, I could keep asking you questions all night, but like I said, I mean, you got 20 minutes till you're on with Nick, and I would imagine you guys are probably going to want to go over a few things before you actually go live. So I'm going to give you that chance to be able to communicate with him and prepare for that. And my mods have been dropping Rekieta Law's link in the chat. So Michael will be on Rekieta Law's channel following this at 12 a.m. Eastern. So guys, Michael, I want to thank you for coming on here. I mean, that was, I'm going to honestly tell you, it was a show of class on your part, knowing that, I've said some pretty unfavorable things about you. And that was it was a classy move to reach out to me last night and to agree to come on here and talk to me here. So I appreciate that.
I know that you've always had Sophie's best interest in mind, man, and protecting her. And at the end of the day, dude, that's what matters the most. And so all this other drama stuff, it rolls off because the priority is the priority. So thank you for staying true to that.
Yeah, I can't help it. Like, I mean, you got us all riled up about her, you got us all really caring about her, and
she's awesome, man. She's just an awesome kid, and she's growing up real fast.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
Yeah, she's definitely a very special person from what I can tell. So
she's really into architecture lately. This is her new thing.
our architecture.
Oh my God, she's
Wow.
got like such just weird gift for it. That's not to say weird, but it's just she's got an eye for it, and it's really it's lovely when you find out that your children have talents that you didn't know they did, that they had, and they start expressing it, and they feel good and fulfilled. It's just a fun process to go through with kids, and yeah, architecture's a new fun thing, so it's kind of cool.
Right on, man. That's great to hear. That's great to hear. Like I said, I appreciate you for joining me tonight, man, and I really wish you the best of luck, and I hope whatever you do is going to be the right thing, no matter what the outcome is tomorrow. And yeah, lots of love to you and lots of luck to you, man.
Thank you, brother. It was good to see you.
All right.
I'll have more docs to you soon.
Thanks a lot, bud.
All right, brother. Bye.
All right, guys, there you have it. Make sure to tune in less than 20 minutes to Ricada Law's channel and watch. He's going to Ricada Law is an attorney. He has experience in family law, I believe, and I think he's going to be able to get deeper into the technical side of all of this stuff. So I hope that I was able to get some answers for you guys and squash some rumors. That was my intention here. And again, I think it was a class act of Michael to come on here, especially doing 2 live streams in a row, so I think that was a class act on his part to considering our differences in the past. But guys, I love you very much. I will see you guys in Nick Ricada's chat, and we will do this again very soon, my friends.